He filmed my breakdown and shared it online. I never thought it would come to this. Walking into my own worst nightmare, feeling like the ground beneath me had just split open. I found out through a message. A friend sent me a link with a message. Is this you? At first I thought it was some kind of joke or mistake, but it wasn't. It was a video. My breakdown, filmed without my knowledge, without my consent, and shared online for anyone to see. My vulnerability, my lowest point, exposed for the world. I remember how everything felt. It felt like the walls were closing in, like I was suffocating. The world around me was still, but in my head, everything was moving too fast. I tried to breathe, but all I could do was watch that video play over and over. It was me. It was my face, my pain. But it wasn't just the video that tore me apart. It was the fact that it came from someone I trusted, someone I thought understood me, someone I thought cared. How could they do this to me? How could they take the one moment I was least prepared for and turn it into content? My breakdown was shared with the world that the shock didn't wear off. It just morphed into something else. Embarrassment, anger, humiliation. I felt naked in front of the world, like everyone was looking at me, judging me for being weak. I couldn't process it. At first my brain was telling me this couldn't be real, but my heart was sinking, and my stomach twisted. I could barely even move. All I could do was stare at the screen, watching myself cry, watch myself fall apart like it wasn't even me anymore. I wanted to scream, to lash out. How could they? How could they do this? The betrayal hit harder than anything I had ever felt. It wasn't just a video. It was my trust shattered in front of me. And for what? For views, for attention. I wasn't just embarrassed for myself. I was furious. How could someone so close to me just take what was supposed to be a private moment and turn it into something they could use? It felt like a punch in the gut, and I was gasping for air. It didn't stop there. The aftermath was worse than the discovery itself. The video went viral, and there was nothing I could do about it. I tried to ignore it. I tried to pretend it wasn't happening, but it was everywhere. People who I thought cared were talking about it, sharing their opinions, like I was some kind of spectacle. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape the feeling of being exposed. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages. People who I hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out, asking me if I was okay, but I didn't want to talk to anyone. How could I explain the mess I was in? And then there was the person who filmed it, the one I trusted, the one who was there when I thought I needed them. How could they look at me really? Look at me after they did this. I felt paralyzed by confusion. My mind kept replaying the moment, questioning everything about the relationship I thought we had. Was it real? Was I ever safe with them? I felt torn. Every part of me wanted to confront them, to demand answers, to make them see what they had done to me, but at the same time, a small voice in my head told me that nothing would ever be the same. Could I even face them anymore? Was this something I could ever get past? Should I confront them and risk making it worse? Or should I just walk away, cut them out of my life, and never look back? I wasn't sure if I was strong enough for either. I felt small. I felt stupid. I felt like I had opened myself up, thinking I could trust them, thinking I had found someone who would never hurt me. But now all I had was a broken trust and a deep ache in my chest. The worst part was how conflicted I felt. Part of me still cared about them, but another part of me felt like I couldn't even look at them without remembering what they'd done. How could I heal from this? How could I move forward with this weight on my heart? I remember that night like it was yesterday. The stress had built up for weeks, maybe even longer. My job, my personal life, everything was crashing down, and I was barely holding on. That night, I finally broke. It wasn't something I planned. I didn't want to break down in front of anyone, but there I was, sitting alone in my room, completely overwhelmed by everything that had been building up. I wasn't just crying because of one thing, it was everything. The loneliness, the disappointment, the fear of failing. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears came like a flood. I didn't even try to stop them. It felt like the only release I had left, but I wasn't alone. They were there, sitting across from me. They watched me fall apart. And then, when I was at my lowest, they pulled out their phone. They filmed it. At the time, I didn't even realize it. I was too caught up in the emotions. But when I saw that video, when I saw myself vulnerable and broken, all over social media, I couldn't believe it. How could I have been so blind? How could I have let someone who I trusted, someone I cared for, turn my pain into something they could share with the world? When I saw the video, it felt like the world dropped out from under me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't even feel like myself anymore. I was so exposed, so raw. That moment my breakdown was supposed to be mine. It was mine to feel, mine to experience, and yet they took it from me. They turned my pain into something they could use, something they could watch again and again. The shame was overwhelming. It wasn't just the video. It was the realization that someone I had trusted had witnessed my lowest moment and chosen to record it. It felt like they had seen my deepest vulnerabilities and then turned them into a joke. What hurt even more was that I didn't see it coming. I thought I knew them. I thought they were someone who would have my back, someone who would protect me from this very kind of thing. But in that moment, when I was broken, they took advantage of it, and all I was left with was the weight of betrayal. We met at a time when I was searching for something, anything, that could make me feel seen. They seemed like the answer. They listened when I needed to talk. They made me laugh when I thought I couldn't. We became close, fast. We shared everything, our hopes, our fears, our dreams, or at least, that's how I saw it. I felt like I had found someone who understood me, someone I could trust with my deepest thoughts. I thought we were building something real. But now, looking back, I'm not so sure. What did we really have? Was it real, or was it all just a facade? I never thought that trust could be so easily shattered. When we first connected, it felt like we were two pieces of a puzzle. We shared so much. I trusted them with my insecurities, my weaknesses, and I believed they'd do the same with me. We were a team, or at least I thought we were. I gave them my trust, my heart, and my vulnerability. I believed in them. I thought they'd protect me from the things I was too afraid to face. But now, I'm not sure they ever cared about me the way I cared about them. There were times I felt safe, supported, loved, but those moments feel distant now, almost like they were part of a dream. Was it all just a performance for them? Did they ever really care? Or was I just another person in their life to use? Looking back, I can see the cracks. The little things that I ignored, the signs I didn't want to see. They'd pull away when I needed them most, make excuses, get distant when I was struggling. There were times when I felt like they didn't understand me, or worse, didn't care. But I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I didn't want to believe that the person I trusted could be the same one who would hurt me this badly. But now, I can't ignore it. The signs were there all along. I just didn't want to see them. There were things I should have said, things I wanted to say, but I didn't. I kept quiet, afraid of what might happen if I spoke up, afraid of pushing them away, afraid of being vulnerable again. We had moments where things felt tense, where I felt like I couldn't reach them, but I stayed silent. I kept everything inside, thinking it would be okay. Now, I wish I had spoken up. I wish I had said the things that were on my mind, the things I was too scared to say. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe it would have, but never know now. It didn't happen overnight, but trust started to slip away, bit by bit. At first, I tried to ignore the small things. I didn't want to admit that something was wrong, because admitting it would mean facing the fact that I was being manipulated, that my feelings were being taken for granted. But the more I thought about the video, the more I questioned everything. Between us, I found myself wondering if they ever cared about me the way I cared about them. If they had ever really respected me. My breakdown wasn't just a moment of weakness, it was a moment where I was vulnerable, raw, and hurting. It was real, and yet, they saw that as something they could exploit. It wasn't just about the video, it was everything that came after. There were little lies, small manipulations that started to pile up, things they said that didn't make sense, actions that didn't match their words. Every time they ignored me or belittled my feelings, the gap between us widened. The person I thought I knew was starting to feel more like a stranger, and I couldn't tell if they ever cared about me in the first place. It wasn't easy to accept that this person, the person who had witnessed my worst moment, had slowly turned into someone I couldn't trust. I tried to justify it. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting, but the more time passed, the more everything felt off. I started to feel the distance growing, and it wasn't just physical. I could feel it emotionally. They stopped checking in when I was down. They stopped being present when I needed support. But I stayed quiet. I stayed silent, trying to convince myself that everything would be okay, that I could get past it. The truth was, I didn't know how to let go. I didn't know how to walk away from someone who I thought was my safe space. The deeper I sank into the doubt and confusion, the harder it became to know who to trust. Was it me? Was I just being too sensitive? Or was I seeing the truth too late? The betrayal wasn't just about the video, it was about everything that had been building up underneath. And I didn't know how to confront it. I was stuck between wanting to salvage what we had and the gut-wrenching feeling that I was the one left holding the pieces of something that had already fallen apart. The hardest part of all this was realizing that the trust I thought I had wasn't really there anymore. It was like waking up from a dream and realizing that everything I believed was nothing more than a fragile illusion. At first, I fought it. I didn't want to believe that this person had betrayed me. I told myself that it was just a mistake, that maybe they didn't understand the gravity of what they had done. But deep down, I knew. The more I thought about it, the more I saw the cracks in everything. The way they acted so casual about something that had ripped me apart. The way they tried to justify it, like it wasn't that big of a deal. I couldn't pretend anymore. The trust between us was shattered, and no matter how much I wanted to ignore it, the truth was clear. I couldn't trust them anymore. It wasn't long before the lies started. It was small at first, denials, half-truths, things that didn't add up, but each lie cut deeper. The first time I confronted them about the video, they brushed it off like it was no big deal. They said, it was just a moment, a mistake. You shouldn't be so upset. But it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't just a moment. It was me. It was my breakdown, my pain, and they had turned it into something for the world to see. And they didn't even apologize. Instead of owning up to what they had done, they started to twist things around, making it feel like I was overreacting. I began to doubt myself. Was I really overreacting? Was I the one making a bigger deal out of it than I should? The more they lied, the harder it became to see the truth. They tried to make me feel like the bad guy, like I was the one ruining everything by bringing it up. And that's when I realized I wasn't just being lied to about the video, I was being lied to about everything. It didn't stop there. They didn't just lie, they manipulated my emotions, making me feel guilty for being upset. Every time I tried to express how I felt, they turned it around on me. You're too sensitive, they'd say. You need to calm down. They made me feel like I was the problem, like my pain wasn't valid. And for a while, I believed them. I started questioning myself, wondering if I really had the right to be hurt. I had to remind myself over and over that I wasn't the one in the wrong. But it wasn't just emotional manipulation, it was gaslighting. They'd twist the truth, confuse me, make me feel like I was crazy for even confronting them. And the worst part was that, for a brief moment, I doubted myself. I felt like I was losing my mind. Was I overreacting? Was I just being dramatic? The emotional toll it took on me was more than I had ever realized. They were slowly wearing me down, making me question everything I knew about our relationship and about myself. As the emotional manipulation continued, I felt more and more alone. I started withdrawing, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to face them anymore. How could I be around someone who had done this to me? How could I pretend everything was fine when everything felt so broken? The distance grew between us, and it wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Every conversation felt forced. Every smile felt fake. Every word that came out of their mouth felt like another lie, another attempt to keep me in the dark. I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to confront them with everything they had done, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to fix what they had broken. All I knew was that I couldn't keep living like this. It was like I was living with a stranger, someone I thought I knew, but who had now turned into someone I couldn't even trust to hold my hand when I was at my lowest. The person I had once believed in was gone, and in their place, there was someone who had turned my pain into a game. It had to happen. I couldn't go on pretending that everything was okay. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal, they had all built up to a boiling point. I couldn't keep it inside anymore, so I confronted them. And it wasn't pretty. I was shaking, angry, and hurt all at once. I demanded answers. Why did you film me? I asked. Why did you share it? At first they tried to deny it. It wasn't that serious, they said. You're overreacting. But I wasn't overreacting. I had every right to be upset. I had every right to be angry. And I told them that. I told them how betrayed I felt, how everything they had done had shattered me. I didn't care anymore if they understood. I needed them to know the truth. I needed to tell them how much they had hurt me. For the first time, I didn't care about the fallout. I just needed to say it. Then came the truth. The full ugly truth. They admitted it. They admitted to filming me in my weakest moment. They didn't even apologize at first. Instead, they tried to justify it, telling me they didn't think it was a big deal. But for me, it was a big deal. They didn't get it. The reality of what they had done was finally sinking in, and it was worse than I had imagined. They filmed me? They shared my pain with the world, and for what? To feel better about themselves? To get attention? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice they made at my expense. The betrayal felt deeper now, because I finally understood how little they valued me, how little they cared about my well-being. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was devastated. I couldn't even look at them anymore. The trust I had in them, the connection we shared, it was gone. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted someone who had done something so callous, so cruel? Everything felt like a lie. The person I thought they were, the person I believed would never hurt me, was gone. In their place was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who had taken my darkest moment and turned it into something for others to watch. I couldn't put the pieces back together. The trust was irreparably broken. How could I ever trust them again after everything they had done? A whirlwind of emotions hit me all at once. Sadness, confusion, and a deep sense of loss. I was wrecked. My mind was spinning, and my chest felt tight. How could someone I cared about so deeply do this to me? How could they watch me fall apart and think it was okay to share that with others? I wanted to scream, to cry, to hit something. I wanted to take back everything that had led me to this moment, to pretend none of it had ever happened. But I couldn't. The truth was out there now. The betrayal was real, and it wasn't something I could erase. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know if I was supposed to forgive them, to walk away, or to just forget about everything. I didn't know how to process all of this pain. All I knew was that everything had changed, and I didn't know how to fix it. The reality of it all hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just about a video anymore. It was about everything that came after. My life had been exposed, torn apart, and turned into a spectacle for others to watch. It felt like I had no control anymore. The consequences of the betrayal were deep. I had to face the shame, the humiliation, the heartbreak, and I didn't know how to begin to deal with it. People who I thought cared about me started treating me differently. They watched the video too. I could see the way their eyes lingered. The awkward silences. I became that video. I became the person they saw online. I wasn't just myself anymore. I was the girl who had been filmed at her lowest. I felt exposed, like everything I had ever been had been stripped away. My privacy was gone. My dignity was gone. And I couldn't figure out how to put any of it back together. How do you rebuild yourself after something like that? How do you move on when your pain is out there for everyone to see? The fallout didn't just affect me. Emotionally, it was affecting my relationships, my reputation. And that scared me more than anything else. I felt empty. Not just heartbroken, but hollow. Like someone had taken everything important to me and thrown it out the window. The trust I had placed in that person, the emotional connection I thought we shared, felt like a lie. But beyond the anger and the betrayal, there was something worse. Confusion. What was I supposed to feel? Was I supposed to be angry forever? Was I supposed to forgive them? Even though it felt impossible. It was hard to even look at my phone. Every time it buzzed, I felt sick to my stomach. More messages, more notifications about the video, people talking about me behind my back, judging me for something I didn't ask for. I couldn't stop thinking about how vulnerable I had been, how exposed I had been in front of someone I trusted. And then I had to sit with the shame of it, all feeling like I had done something wrong when all I had done was fall apart. But the worst part, I wasn't sure who I could trust anymore. If someone I had been close to could do something like that, who else was capable of hurting me? The world suddenly felt more dangerous, more unsafe. It wasn't just about the video anymore. It was about how my entire life, my personal world, had been thrown out into the open. And now there was no way to put the pieces back. And the days after everything came to light, I felt like I was floating. I wasn't really me anymore. It felt like the world was moving around me, but I was stuck in a fog. The pain, the shame, the embarrassment hit all mixed together until I couldn't tell where one feeling started and the other ended. I tried to go about my day like nothing had changed, but everything had. The way people looked at me, the way they spoke to MIT, was different. I could feel the weight of their judgment. Even if they didn't say anything out loud, I tried to act like I was okay, like it didn't bother me. But the truth was, it hurt more than I could say. I didn't know how to face anyone. I didn't know how to move forward when it felt like I had been broken in a way that couldn't be fixed. and every time I thought about the betrayal, my chest would tighten. The person I had trusted had seen me at my most vulnerable, filmed it, and shared it with the world. How could I ever trust again? How could I ever believe that someone would have my back when all it took was one moment to completely shatter everything? I had to face the consequences head on whether I liked it or not. But it wasn't just about the video anymore. It was about everything that had happened between us, everything I had ignored. It was about how I had let someone into my life, into my most intimate space, and trusted them to respect me. Now, I was left picking up the pieces of something that couldn't be put back together. I wasn't just angry at them anymore. I was angry at myself for not seeing the signs, for ignoring the doubts, for letting my guard down. The consequences of their actions reached far beyond that video. It affected how I viewed myself, how I viewed others. I couldn't stop asking myself, why didn't I see it? But I couldn't keep blaming myself forever. What happened, happened, and I had to accept that it wasn't my fault. They chose to betray me. I had no control over their actions. Still, the damage was done. I had to rebuild my self-worth from the ground up, and I didn't even know where. To start, I tried to move forward. I really did. But how do you move forward when part of you feels like it's been ripped out? I began by cutting ties with them. It felt like the only choice I had left. I couldn't keep someone in my life who had taken something so personal and turned it into a public spectacle. The more time passed, the clearer it became that they weren't worth keeping around. But even after I made that decision, the road ahead still felt uncertain. How do I trust again? How do I let anyone in when the one person who I thought I could rely on destroyed me? I started leaning on my friends more, the ones who had been there before all of this. They helped, but it didn't fix the gaping hole I felt inside. They couldn't give me back the trust I had lost. They couldn't undo the damage. Still, I knew I had to try. For me, I needed to heal. I needed to reclaim my life, even if it meant doing it piece by piece. I didn't know what was next, but I knew one thing. I couldn't let this define me forever. It took time, but eventually, I began to accept it. The betrayal, the hurt, the loss. I couldn't change what had happened, and I couldn't undo what they had done, but I could choose to move forward. Acceptance didn't come easy. It didn't come all at once, but with every passing day, I started to feel less angry and more, at peace. I realized that holding on to that anger wasn't helping me. It wasn't making anything better. It was just holding me back from finding peace within myself. So, I let go. I let go of the pain, the bitterness, and the anger. I let go of the person who had hurt me. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but little by little, I started to heal. I let go because I knew I deserved better. I knew I could rebuild, even if it took time. I knew that what they did didn't define who I was or who I could become. And I finally started to see that the most important thing was me. I had to protect myself. I had to find my worth again, and no one could take that away from me. In the weeks that followed, I did a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting, and the more I thought about everything, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about the video. This wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about me, about how I had let someone else's actions affect my sense of self. I realized that I had been holding on to a version of myself that was tied to them, to our relationship, and to what I thought we had. But that wasn't me anymore. I wasn't the girl who let someone else define her worth. I wasn't the girl who put all her trust into someone who couldn't even protect her when she was at her most vulnerable. This experience, this betrayal, had forced me to look at myself in a way I never had before. I had to ask myself hard questions. What was I allowing? Why was I putting so much of my self-worth into someone else's hands? The truth was hard to accept, but I realized that I needed to start trusting myself more than I ever trusted anyone else. I needed to stop depending on others for validation. I needed to find my strength from within, not from anyone else's actions. And that was the beginning of my healing. I started to see my own worth again. Slowly but surely, I began to piece myself back together. The pain was still there. The scars from the betrayal would always be there. But the more I worked on myself, the more I began to realize that this wasn't the end. It was just another chapter. The person I was before, the one who let herself be manipulated, who trusted too easily, who thought her worth depended on others. She wasn't gone, but she was changing. I was changing. And that change didn't come from anyone else's actions. It came from me. It came from understanding that I didn't need anyone else to validate me. I didn't need anyone else to make me feel worthy. What had happened to me wasn't a reflection of who I was. It was a reflection of who they were. And I had to remind myself of that every day. I was stronger than I thought. Stronger than they gave me credit for, and that realization was everything. Now that the dust had settled a bit, I could look back and see the bigger picture. The betrayal hurt, yes, but it also taught me some hard lessons about trust, boundaries, and my own worth. The hardest part wasn't just the moment of betrayal itself. It was realizing that I had given so much of myself to someone else without checking if they deserved it. I had let them into my most vulnerable moments, and I had trusted them too. Treat that trust with respect. But what I learned through all of this was that trust isn't something you give away so easily. It's earned. The betrayal didn't just teach me to be careful with who I let into my life. It taught me that my value doesn't depend on anyone else's actions. It doesn't matter what they do or what they think of me. I have to be the one to define my worth, and that, more than anything, is what I took away from this whole experience. I realized that the most important relationship I will ever have is the one with myself. It's easy to get lost in someone else's actions, to let them control how you feel, but at the end of the day, I'm the one who decides how I feel about myself. As painful as it was, this experience was a wake-up call. I had been putting my trust in the wrong places, and that had caused me to question everything. I'd been so focused on keeping others happy, on meeting their expectations, that I lost sight of my own happiness. And that's what I want to share with anyone reading this or going through something similar. Never let someone else's actions dictate how you feel about yourself. People will disappoint you. They will hurt you. They will betray you. But none. Well, that makes you less worthy. The people we trust have a responsibility to respect us, to honor us, but their actions are not a reflection of our value. It took me a long time to understand that, but now I know. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to grieve. But it's also okay to let go and walk away when someone shows you that they don't deserve your trust. You are worth more than their betrayal, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll be able to heal and move forward. I think the greatest lesson I've learned through all of this is to trust myself more than anyone else, to protect myself from people who would take advantage of my vulnerabilities, and to never ever let someone else define my worth. This journey, this heartache, and the slow path to healing have taught me things I never thought I would learn. There's so much power in taking back your narrative and refusing to let someone's actions control your self-worth. I can't change the past, and I can't undo what happened, but I can choose to move forward with my head held high. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone. We all experience moments of betrayal, heartbreak, and pain, but those moments don't have to define us. They can be the catalyst for growth, for self-discovery, and for reclaiming our worth. I hope this story resonates with you, and if you've ever been hurt by someone you trusted, I encourage you to share your experience in the comments below. Let's support each other. Healing starts with sharing our stories and knowing we're not alone. If you want to hear more stories of resilience, healing, and personal growth, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you in some way. You're stronger than you think.